so we can talk to the others. Yeah, so this session is really about a lot about the kind of reporting and management of marketing campaigns. You know, once you've actually decided who you're going to talk to and what you're going to talk to them about and which channels you're going to use, the key thing that we have is that they're kind of how to make sure what we're spending our money on is correct. And I mean, this is it's been attributed to Ford, it's been attributed to Procter & Gamble. It basically, no one knows who said it, but it was said. And this is the big problem with the old style traditional marketing, in that, you know, so much of the stuff we did was completely untraceable. And that's, you know, and most of the time it was kind of swept under the carpet as brand awareness. So, you know, you would go to a show and you'd have a stand at a show, and you know, your boss would say, "Was it a good show? You know, you've just spent 10 grand on this thing with all, in terms of the booth and the people and the hotels and everything else. Was it a good show?" Well, yeah, we met some good people and we had some really good meetings and we really raised awareness of our company in the community. That's kind of about it, really. And you know, I used to, when I was in sales, and we used to have a weekly sales meeting and so forth, there were a couple of people who were famous for having good meeting, and they were great at having good meetings. And so the salesman said, "Oh, we had a really great meeting with X, and we had a really great meeting with Y," and our boss would then say, "Well, you know, when's our contract coming out of it?" "Oh, well, we're going to have another meeting about to discuss the work." So, you know, there'd be lots of good meetings. And in marketing terms, a lot of this is a case of, you know, "Oh, what did you do? And what value did you get out of it? Did you get any good leads or whatever?" And so, "Well, you know, I got a few leads," but most of it was brand awareness. You know, we've all done that. We've all been there and bought that T-shirt and handed out those T-shirts at booths. And one of the interesting things that I'm doing at the moment is that we're running a conference in June. In about 6 weeks' time, and usually this conference is a face-to-face one. I've spoken about it for TNC, and this time around we've got it's fully 100% online, and so we've got sponsors coming to this, and now usually when a sponsor turns up, we charge them about between 10 grand and 25 grand, depending on the level of sponsorship they get, the size of booth and everything else. So they spend a lot of money with us. And they basically stand there and they hand out the stress balls and they hand out the T-shirts and they collect lots of business cards. And, you know, that I look at the money that they've spent with us and the kind of deals that they're doing. I'm thinking, how the hell can you justify that? You know, last time we did one which was in Tallinn, and Google came along to this thing, and they got 5 people, 3 of whom flew from the States. And so you've got 3 people flying from the States on business class, and you've got all the hotel rooms, and you've got all of that stuff, plus 25 grand, plus all of the goodies and the freebies and the giveaways and stuff like this. And you're thinking, God, how the hell do they justify? Obviously, you know, Google have got the money. It doesn't matter to Google. We barely recognize there's a rounding error on Google's marketing budget, let alone anything else. But, you know, it was really, really difficult. But this year we're doing it online. And we've had to really dramatically cut down the prices to about 6K for Google. Google is spending 6K with us, which is not bad for us. It's not too bad. But we're trying desperately to make sure that they get a good, measurable return on investment for that. So we are tracking the number of people who go to their web pages in the conference facility. We are tracking the number of leads, tracking the number of downloads, tracking the number of meeting invites, tracking the number of people attending their technical workshops, all of those things. And, you know, this time around, hopefully they'll be able to actually measure this and say, yeah, actually, we spent 6 grand, but we got 150 people turning up at the technical workshop. We had 50 people booking meetings with our experts. We had blah, 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 all these things. So hopefully they'll be able to track it better. So, you know, it should be quite cool this time around. Do you do events and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, so we do to a certain extent. We our attorneys used to go to quite a few events, like some of the really big IP events. you know, and they would be held sort of annually or biannually, maybe in America, or just before lockdown, there was meant to be one in Singapore, and then they will arrange to see, you know, and meet and have meetups with lots of different other firms who are out there. And if they've got any clients, they'll coincide that trip to see clients. You know, for example, if they're in America, they might go in that particular area in America, go and visit clients. But it has been interesting with sort of lockdown. So people have been going to events, and we've held more events as well. Like we've done a lot of you know, we do training courses and things for either other firms or you know, key clients and things, and we've done a couple of webinars as well. But I think that a lot of the attorneys, because a lot of their work, especially with other firms, comes from sort of networking physically. A lot, or even, you know, if they're going to some of these smaller events around Cambridge, for instance, where you've got maybe startup groups and things like that, I think they struggle a little bit to properly kind of converse and network online, and that's the feedback that we've had. And sometimes it might be that, you know, they'll say it's not worth, you know, doing that event, or that they've struggled to meet. I mean, I think it depends on the setup, because I think you know, they've been to events before where you know, it's been set up that they can arrange meetings and things with people.
Yep.
I looked at one event, we didn't end up going to it, but because I only saw about it quite short notice, but they had like scheduled almost like a booking system where people could book, that if they saw somebody they thought that would be interesting, they can like book a meet with them.
Yeah.
Which, you know, which is good. So they still got that kind of networking element. But yeah, I think that a lot of the attorneys at sort of my firm are, and I'm sure it's the same with other firms, maybe it's, you know, with professional services, you've seen this as well, that they are very keen to get back in and see people face to face.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason for that, particularly in that area, is because you need that kind of level of trust in the person. You need to basically be able to look in their eyes and say, you know, are you telling me something? And do I trust you? Do I believe in you? It's also like in court, where, you know, they try and avoid having people giving evidence by video link, because they feel that the jury needs to actually see the person, see their reactions, you know, kind of see all of those kind of visual and verbal tics that are going on. And I think in terms of, you know, those professional services, and this is something which you'll hopefully be putting into your things, is that level of, you know, shaking hands, sitting back, chatting about travel, chatting about the weather, building that kind of informal, non-business related part of the relationship, gets you to the level of the trust, where you say, yeah, actually, this is the kind of person I can deal with, the kind of person I can work with, the kind of person I can trust with my really, really valuable issues and so forth. And you just can't get that on a video. And I mean, the number of times I've been through, you know, webinars and stuff like this, and you're just thinking, my God, this you're losing track, you lose focus, all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, I think certainly within your assignment, you should be looking at things to say, well, you know, what can I do to show this, to say, well, we can do digital marketing up to this certain point where we're kind of arranging meetings, we're arranging kind of get-togethers, but beyond that point, the actual closure, the actual contract, the actual, you know, signature on a piece of paper is face-to-face, because that's the nature of the business, and people don't sign off on, you know, potentially 6-7 figures of fees and so forth, and many hundreds of man hours of work based on a video conference like this. You just don't do it. It's just not something which is as practical. And again, that's something that, you know, put into the assignment, put into the kind of initial section, into 1A, to discuss that there's constraints as to where digital fits within the customer journey. And obviously, when you're talking about the customer journey, sort of say, you know, there's almost a cut-off point where we almost have to kind of throw it over the wall to get the closure people done and doing the closing. And the aim here, of course, is, you know, whereas previously we'd kind of throw it over the wall with no background, with no data, with no information, no kind of context to the throwing. Now, with a lot of the data we can produce, we can provide them with a whole bunch of backstory and research and you know, and qualified to say, well, they've already downloaded this, they've already watched this video, they've already asked these questions, they've already had this contact with us, or whatever it happens to be before, so that when the guys are going to close, they've got more ammunition to actually do the closure. So
Yeah.
you know, that's like another kind of really quite cool thing to think about. And of course, you know, we speak. These are usually when I'm doing loads of people. We're not doing loads of people. We're just doing 2 people, so we're not going to bother going through the slides in the same way. But these are the kind of key messages that you want to put across, which is is distance, and distance here isn't actually the physical distance, like, or you're not in the same room. This is actually the problem that you have where you put a, you know, if you're in the business consumer, fast moving consumer goods kind of environment, you put, you know, adverts in newspapers, you put you know, TV or radio adverts. Hugh Dennis is doing endless videos, endless things on radio for Curry's PC World at the moment, and they're coming out of the radio and everything else, and you're not going to instantly do anything with that. You're kind of building it into your background, and so there's a lot of distance in time between hearing that stuff and actually thinking, oh, I need a new laptop, or mine, whatever, I need a new, you know, hard drive or whatever. I'll go there. I'll check out their website. And for Courage PC World, they say, well, we put in X thousands of pounds into these radio adverts. What of the sales that we get can we actually attribute to that? So this is attribution, this measurement and tracking and attribution. It's really, really hard with offline marketing. Whereas what we can do is we can actually do a lot more linkages between that. So we can say, yeah, we did a pay-per-click advert. So people did portable hard drive on Google, up to pop to Carrier's PC World. You clicked on it. You then went to the website, saw the price. Okay, maybe even went away, looked at other prices, came back and bought it. You can still track that person to say, actually, that pay-per-click for 50p or a pound or whatever it was actually did generate £95 worth of business on that one. So you have that closure of the distance. You can actually link the two together. You can make that chain work. Which is very, very difficult. And of course, another thing is the old call to action. I mean, every TV advert these days has a URL on it, you know, and before, when we didn't have the web, you know, you'd put up a TV advert for a, you know, the new Ford Escort, Ford Focus or whatever it was, and you'd hope that they went to a dealer. You'd hope that they looked in the yellow pages, found the nearest Ford dealer, and then went to the nearest Ford dealer and picked up a brochure and stuff like this. You didn't have the ability to link those things and call to action straight away. Whereas now, obviously, we do. We have the ability to put the URL up, and we can then use our tablets and or phones and go to the website immediately. One interesting one was Fiat did this with Shazam. You know Shazam, don't you?
Nope. What's Shazam?
Shazam? You've never heard of Shazam? Shazam is basically you listen to a piece of music on the radio and you think, oh, I love this piece of music. Who is it? And you can't remember who it is and stuff like this. And so you can actually use the Shazam app on your phone, and you wave the phone near the speaker. So you.
Oh yeah, I think my husband's told me about this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it will say that was Visage Fade to Grey. Well, obviously you'd know Visage Fade to Grey anyway. You wouldn't need to use Shazam for that, obviously. And if you did, I will no longer speak to you. But what Fiat did was they actually had the music, so you could Shazam their TV advert, and it would then take you to the website. So you'd have it on the TV, and then the Shazam would then link through your phone to bring up the website on your phone. And of course, implicit in that is the tracking. So they go, you came to the website based on that TV advert. That TV advert can then be much more clearly monetized. You can say, right, we got 5,000 people based on that TV advert for I think it was the Fiat 500 4x4 crossover thing. Based on that TV ad, we got this many people turning up on our website, downloading a brochure or doing a 360-degree virtual tour or booking a test drive or whatever it happened to be. And they can then monetize those things and then say, a test drive. 1 in 10 people who take a test drive buys the car. We got 50 test drives, so we think we probably sold about 5 cars. So therefore that TV advert generated 5 car sales of this much profit. That TV advert generated that much profit. Very easy to track and measure and get that linkage between them. So you're building this chain of things going on through the system.
In the assignment, I mean, because this is really difficult to do with, you know, services. I mean, we have different things in place. We can obviously look at, you know, we've got a service in place where we can have a look and see who's looked at our website, for instance. So it's quite useful for looking to see if, you know, if there's any sort of potential clients, you know, if somebody, there's a big firm maybe that, or a company that have repeatedly looked at a particular person or, you know, a particular blog or an article. I mean, that's the other thing. We have had interest back through blogs before as well. Yeah. It's quite, you know, unless somebody says, which we always try and find out how they come to us. We find out, you know, did they find us through the website? Did they find us via a blog? And often they will say, but it's quite bitty. It's not, you know, it's not like a sort of a steadier flow of sort of clients. It might, and the other thing as well is that often it takes a really long time maybe to actually convert somebody into a client. So it's quite difficult to like measure it.
Indeed. And there's a load of techniques that you can use for this. One of the simple ones is, you know, when you click on a URL in something like Facebook or whatever, you see the URL and then you have a question mark and then you have a whole bunch of what looks like gibberish, random characters and stuff like that after the question mark. Yeah. That is the tracking information that the website then says, oh right, you've come to look at this thing or ask us for information. And based on that pile of gobbledygook, we know which advert you clicked on which platform and in which country and so on. And so all that information is embedded within that gobbledygook because that is generated. So you can actually say, yeah, we put a blog post into a legal matters blog. You know, say, for example, there was a generic legal matters blog out there full of random lawyers from around the world posting their latest and greatest thoughts. You put a post up there saying that the issues with trademark registration post-Brexit or something like that. Okay. And someone thought, that's interesting. These guys know what they're talking about. These guys know their shit. Let's go to them. And they would click on the link and it would go to your website. You'd say, oh, that is not only somebody coming to our website who's interested in trademarks, they are also, that link was generated by that website, by that blog post on that website, or by that profile in LinkedIn or whatever it is. So again, what you need to do is make sure that when your people have got their LinkedIn profiles and they've got the URL of your site, they actually have that trackable to say, and this is coming from LinkedIn. So you can actually work with your web team to say, well, how do we put in this URL tracking codes into our system so that when the lawyers are putting up information, say, contact me at blah, 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 / whatever, then there's the question mark and all the gobbledygook stuff. That will tell people where they found it from and so on. So this is the tracking. This is the key thing here that we can now do, which is, you know, invaluable, totally invaluable to how we do things, to make sure that we're actually understanding where people are coming into the funnel, through which of the channels they're coming into the funnel, so that we can actually say, well, that thing coming into the funnel generates really good conversions. You know, basically 1 in 10 people who come in through LinkedIn are actually turning into customers. Whereas on pay-per-click, only 1 in 1,000 is turning into a customer. So therefore, we should invest in strengthening our LinkedIn profiling or strengthening our blogs or whatever it happens to be. So that's the real thing. You can get that feedback loop going. And of course, the difficulty with this is that there is vast amounts of data. you can lose yourself down the rabbit hole of checking Google Analytics forever and a day. You really can. And, you know, it is actually not, you think 2 to 3 gigabytes of tracking data, that's not actually not much. If you're on a big company, you'll be generating that a day through all of the things which are going on. And, you know, if you're an Amazon or an eBay, you're generating petabytes of data about your customers. And then you're using that and extracting the value from that to create the value, to justify it and analyzing it. Smaller companies can't do that. You know, they don't have the resources to do that. And it's one of these things where you need that kind of critical mass. Because if you've got a very small amount of data, then, you know, the needle is fluctuating wildly based on just like one tweet or one blog post, or, you know, one radio interview with one lawyer on one radio station. You know, if your traffic is low, then suddenly it's fluctuating massively based on that just one thing. And you think, oh my God, that's a really important thing from now on. You can't make that assumption necessarily. Whereas if you have the vast quantities of data that Amazon and eBay and Google have, then you kind of get the law of big numbers coming in, and you can actually then smooth out these peaks and make much better assumptions. So although you're getting vast amounts of data, you need to be very careful to make sure you're actually turning that data into knowledge. And this is really important, because you start have this kind of hierarchy. So at the top is information. You know, we have huge amounts of, on top of that is data, huge amounts of data. You know, every single HTTP GET request is an element of data. And then you turn that into information to say, okay, from that information, we can see that there is a lot of people from Norfolk contacting us. There's a lot of people from London. Well, obviously, it's going to be a lot of people from London because there's a lot of people in London. So it's not massively valuable information. You then turn that into kind of knowledge to say, all right, we are seeing that there's clear trends that people are looking on LinkedIn or looking on, you know, legalmatters.com or whatever it happens to be, and we're getting a lot of good quality leads from that, getting lots of information entered into our CRM system. And that then turns into this insight, this business insight, which is at the bottom, which is at the core here, to say, based on all of this data and information and knowledge, I can create business insights to say, we need to be, you know, pumping up the profiles of our star performers in the legal team, or we need to be really ensuring that all of the LinkedIn profiles are, you know, we review them, we check them on their behalf, you know, like the CV checking thing, like LinkedIn profile checking thing, to make sure that they're all covering all the keywords and they're getting all of their skills in there, and then they're doing the right kind of things on their LinkedIn profiles. To justify that, you need, you know, knowledge of this information to say, the reason why we want to spend, you know, a man day checking all of your LinkedIn profiles is because we know we get a lot of the leads from your LinkedIn profiles, and we want to make sure we're getting the best leads from our LinkedIn profiles. So, you know, you need that to justify internally as well. So all sorts of really kind of cool opportunities there to get these nuggets of information out. And it's really important to understand that. Okay. Oh, yeah. So do you obviously know all of these various terms and stuff like this? CTR?
CTR?
Yeah.
Not off the top of my head. I'm going to.
CTR is click-through rate.
Oh, okay. Well, I have to just put it out there. I mean, I really don't do much digital at the moment.
Oh, no, that's cool. That's cool. That's absolutely cool.
Yeah.
No, this is absolutely fine. So, you know, but I don't want to, you know, teach you suck eggs if you really know stuff.
CTR we do a little bit. Not so much involved in that at the moment. I mean, I guess it's one of the ways that partnerships work. But at the moment, you've got my colleague does something called looks at leads and things that have, you know, people that have looked at the website and stuff like that. But it's mainly managed by one of the partners at the moment. It's becoming more of a focus, especially now that, you know, everything is online, but I think previously everything was very much kind of geared towards events and people and in-person, you know, activities. The online element hasn't been looked at so much. So yeah, I mean, this is one of the reasons I kind of looked at doing this course, was to kind of see what else we could do at the firm, really.
Cool. No, that's absolutely cool. No, absolutely. It's good to know background. Yeah, so but things like CTR, click-through rate, is generic across a lot of different types of marketing. So for example, if you've got on your Facebook, I'm going to pull up Facebook on here. I don't have anything rude on my Facebook, which is handy. Okay, so here you've got an advert for a space game, a role-playing game thingy, downloadable thing. Now, they obviously put those things into thousands and thousands and thousands of Facebook profiles. If I were to click on that, that would be one click out of 10,000 views of that advert. So the click-through rate would be 1 in 10,000. Yeah. So it is literally that kind of level to say, based on that, the click-through rate on somebody doing that on Facebook is 1 in 1,000 or something, probably relatively high in Facebook, because Facebook can do all of this kind of micro analyzing of you and profiling the ads to you very, very clearly and closely. Whereas something like the Daily Mail website, which is a very much more generic, amorphous blob of waste of bytes, the adverts are less focused and less targeted. They're more targeted on the content itself rather than the person looking at the content. So the click-through rate might be much, much lower on those ones. So you'd say, right, okay, so 1 in 10,000 people, just as a basic number, clicks on that advert. One for waterproof trousers, which is a little bit on the weird side, but never mind. 1 in 1,000 people clicks on that thing for waterproof trousers, and out of that 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10 will buy those waterproof trousers. So you've got 1 in 10,000 people will buy a pair of waterproof trousers. A pair of waterproof trousers is worth $10 to me in profit. So therefore, I can spend 0.1 cents per impression. And if I spend more than 0.1 cents per impression, I'm losing money on those deals.
Okay.
Yeah, because each click is worth 0.1 cents, and that's it. So it was really, really interesting. When I was talking a long time ago, when I ran a toy business, my wife and I ran a toy business, we read the blog of one of our competitors, basically just to see what they were up to, because it's always handy to find out what your competitor's doing, and she overshared massively. And this was a time when Google were actually refunding VAT to a lot of businesses because of they were based in Ireland and we were based in the UK, and it was all very, very complicated. And she was bragging on her blog that she got a €500 tax refund check from Google, and she was like, "Hey, this is great, isn't it? I'm getting money back from Google." And then we thought, hang on a minute. So that's £500 refund, 20%. So she was spending, what was that, 10,000, something like that, a number of money on Google Ads. You know, we could do the actual maths of that. And I'm actually going to do the maths now because I am tragic and I can't remember what the maths was. So it was 500 divided by 0.2. 2,500 euros on adverts that she was spending, and she got 20% back, 500 euros. And we thought, okay, so that is 2,500 euros she spent on Google advertising. We know what profit she's making on this stuff. We know how many things she's selling because other parts of her blog have told us how much she's selling. She was essentially paying Google money. Google ads for her were costing her money. They weren't making her any profit at all. She was spending more in advertising than she was actually in return on those adverts. She might as well have actually not done the adverts and she would make more money. So it's really, really important to understand what these click-through rates are and this conversion rate. So how many of those clicks actually turn into a sale.
What do you have to do then? Do you have to, how do you I know you went through it, but I mean, do you have to monitor it for a little while then to kind of get an idea? I mean, how would you kind of get an idea of how much to actually spend in the first place to then make that back?
Yeah, but basically you can look very, very quickly, almost in real time, at the click-through rate on pay-per-click advertising or
Okay.
LinkedIn advertising, and it can say, yeah, and they can even actually doing the adverts, they can say, based on the keywords, based on the amount of money you're willing to spend, based on the type of profile you've put into the fine tuning of the profile, if you're doing it in LinkedIn or something like that, we reckon you'll get a click-through rate of 0.1% or something along those lines.
Okay.
So you're going to put the advert up 1,000 times, you will get one person clicking through. And you can say, well, okay, is that a qualified person? We may, 1 in 100 of those people may actually turn into a contract, because that's your conversion rate. This is your conversion rate. 1 in 100 people who come to our website will eventually turn into a contract. How much is that person worth to us? For ease of numbers, let's say £10,000 in profits or whatever, if you're a customer. So each person coming to your website is worth £100, because if 1% of them turn into a deal, essentially you can afford to pay £100 per person coming to your website.
Right. Okay.
So you do the numbers. You basically work the numbers backwards from how much money you make per average sale, and you work that backwards and say, right, okay. And you almost go to the business team and go, right, if I give you 20 qualified leads, how many of those can you turn into contracts? And they'll say 1. For every 20 people you come to me, for every 20 initial meetings we have, we turn that into 1 contract, whatever it happens to be. That will give you your internal conversion rate. And you say, right, okay, how many people do I need to come to my website in order to get a request for a meeting? So you work through the steps of the funnel. So, for example, if you're, hey, look at this, happens to be here. So, you've got all these traffic sources coming in, who are coming to the website, they get interested, they then say, yeah, I'd like to speak to someone, please arrange a meeting. Okay, and at that point there, you say, for every 20 people who get to this point in my system, 1 person turns into a contract. And then you look in your Google Analytics and say, for every 20 people who come into my website, 1 person does this. So you can actually do the numbers at these transition points.
Okay, what about, because as I said, it can be quite a slow process where maybe, it might be that you've been in contact with somebody, for example, because we do a lot of work with referrers, and we refer them work, they refer us work, for instance.
Yeah.
It could be that maybe you don't get anything for like a couple of years, or maybe you meet somebody and then you build up a relationship, and then say 5 years later you get work. Is it still possible to measure it that way, or would you kind of be clear of that kind of stuff and stick more to what you're actually getting through the website?
Yeah, you'd need to look at it in a kind of shorter time frame than that, simply because over a period of like 3 or 4 months, there may be all sorts of different contacts. There could be meetings at networking events. There could be articles in journals. There could be all sorts of things, and therefore it's very hard to attribute the kind of, yes, because of that pay-per-click advert that they clicked on 6 months ago, that we can definitely attribute all of that income to our pay-per-click campaign. You can't, because you've got all the other things which are coming in at the same time and doing other things with you. So yeah, you have to, you almost have this half-life thing where you say, right, okay, after a certain period of time, then the fact that they came to our website is almost kind of erased, and it's no longer valid. And if they then come to us, at a networking event and go, oh yeah, I've heard of you guys, then that's tiny, benefit you've given. But that's where we're getting into this kind of brand awareness fluffiness, and it's very hard to attribute things to that. So you have to be sensible, but you can do a lot of the tracking to say, right, okay, we had a a video case study posted on LinkedIn, which is up here, which then created 150 people clicking onto our website. Out of those 150 people, 20 said, can I have a meeting? That's probably a bit high, maybe 1.5, 2 people. And therefore we got one contract or half a contract or whatever it happens to be out of the end of here. So you can then say, well, okay, but one contract, which we can kind of track through this process, was worth 10K. How much did we spend on LinkedIn? Probably no more than £100, something like that, for a video case study. Yeah, we made money on that, and a great return on investment. So, you know, that's where you get into this process of looking at understanding your click-through rates, your conversion rates, and the cost per click. So this one, and this one, if you do the maths with these 3 things, you can actually understand the profitability or the not profitability of your work.
Yeah.
Bounce is a really interesting one. Everyone says the back button is the easiest button to find on a web page. And, well, okay, not everybody says that. Some people say that. I say that. And we, again, for a shop example, we got contacted by yell.co.uk, the old Yellow Pages. My God, who remembers the Yellow Pages? And they said, oh, you know, you're a toy shop in Cambridge. I said, yeah, we're a toy business based in Cambridge, not quite the same, but yeah, carry on. They said, we can give you really, really good traffic hits for your website based on people who are searching for toy shops in Cambridge. And we went, not really asked, but carry on just for the interest. Yes, for £1,000, every time anyone searches for toy shop in Cambridge, your website will be the top result on our Yellow Pages pages. We went, have you actually been to our website? And we went, no, I'm sure it's brilliant. Well, it's not bad. But the thing is that our stuff was so specialist and so niche that we estimated there may be about 50 people in Cambridge who would be interested in our stuff. And there's 50 people in every county who are interested in stuff. Add up all the counties, that makes a good number of people. But most of those people, if we'd had gone with the Yellow Pages, they'd have clicked on us looking for Fisher-Price or Lego or Meccano or you know, some of those kind of toys. Come to our website and went, what the hell is this? How much? And bounced straight out again. You know, they would never have gone past our homepage. So yeah, bounce rate is basically that. People come to your page and go, really? I've come to the wrong place. And this is something you need to worry about when you're doing pay-per-click advertising, when you're doing paid advertising, getting people to come to your website. Because if you've got your keywords wrong, or you've got the message on your pay-per-click wrong, people think they can come to you and you know, so for example, trademarks, for example, you know, you're mainly going for large organizations who've got large real estate of trademarks and IPR. And so therefore you're doing a kind of a larger, you know, managed contract with them, you know, with billable hours and all sorts of consultative advice, etc., etc., etc. Some people might go, oh, I need to register a trademark, and they'll go trademarks and they'll find you on the top line and they go, oh, I'll have a look at that, click on that, and think, bloody hell, I just wanted to fill in the form and register a trademark. I didn't want to have consultants contacting me and billable hours and, you know, 4 or 5 figure bills coming towards me, and they'll bounce straight out again, and you've wasted the money on that link. Yeah. See, you see what I mean? You know, because if I was an individual, I wanted to trademark a particular, our company was called Laughing Bear Toys. If I'd wanted to trademark Laughing Bear Toys, I'd have filled in a form and done it myself, and it cost me a couple £100. If I'd come to you, you'd gone, I'm not really interested in you, to be honest, because, you know, that's one trademark. We're only interested if you've got a portfolio of 100 trademarks and loads and loads of patents and all that kind of stuff going on as well. You're not of interest to us. So you didn't want them, and they didn't want you, and so that's a waste of money on that link. Mm-hmm. And they would bounce. So that's what bounce is. So yeah, so we look at this process, and we have this traffic source coming in. So we have this leakage coming out here. So this would be somebody clicking on a link, looking at your site and going, oh my God, no, come to the wrong place, straight out again. That's complete leak out of your funnel.
Is there a time, sorry, is there like a time limit for looking at that bounce rate? Is there, you know, from them actually arriving to the website to leaving, is there like a time scale that you
you can in Google Analytics, you can actually say average time on page, so you can get that kind of statistic out. Bounce is actually quite an interesting one, because in the olden days, trust me, I remember the olden days because I was there. The whole key thing was to get people to come to your homepage. Your homepage was king, and so therefore people bouncing from your homepage was bad. Now, when we're doing a lot more content marketing, we're doing a lot more targeted marketing. We're using, you know, Facebook, we're using Twitter, we're using LinkedIn, we're using pay-per-click, and what we're doing is we're actually pulling people directly into a particular place. So rather than sending people to the homepage and then expecting them to browse through your website to find the article or the piece or the practitioner profile or the lawyer profile that they wanted to find, you're actually sending them directly there, because you're putting onto this, find out more about managing trademarks in post-Brexit. That link is not going to your homepage, it's going to the article, find out more about trademarks after Brexit. So they may come to that page, they may then read that page and they go, that's really interesting. I'll bookmark that because I don't need it at the moment, but I'll bookmark it and, you know, it'll be ready for next time I need it. And then they'll bounce away. And you might look at that and think, oh my God, that's really bad, because, you know, 60% of people are bouncing away. It's less of an issue there because you've given them the right amount of information at the right time, and that's fine. And they still may come back. Whereas if they come to your homepage and then bounce straight out again, then that's clearly they've come to the wrong place. So you need to take bounce in the context of the kind of page it is. If it's a page which is how to find our office, and they click on it and they go, oh, right, I found the office, fantastic, I know where to go to for my meeting, they're going to bounce away. You're going to get 100% bounce rate virtually from that page, because where else have you got to go? You found the information, you've been in there, got the information, you get out again and get on with your job, particularly in business to business. You'll find I'm kind of adding a lot of context in here because this is being videoed for the others and so on.
No, it's fine. No, it's good. Yeah.
For them, I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, there'll be leakage here. The awareness, yeah, fine. They may bookmark it and come back later. They may kind of sign up to a newsletter. They may, you know, click on your social media platform profile. They may click on the LinkedIn profile of your one of your partners and stuff like this. So you may have these little sub goals knocking around in the sides here as well. So the key thing to do when you're doing the tracking and monitoring of your activities, your SEO, is to look at these transition points. So you're transitioning here from being completely unaware, no idea who the hell you are. Oh, I know who you are now. I know what you do. Fine. That's a relatively low value transition. I know who you are. You might be interested. I might be interested in taking your services on. I might pass your details on to my manager and say, hey, you know, we're having all this problem with our trademark situation. These guys might be useful. And so therefore that might be a transition from being aware to being interested in who you are and what you're doing and so forth. And then here, there might have been some external research, there might be some third-party research with other similar companies. And at this point, they may say, right, okay, it's now worth speaking to a human being. You know, can someone call me back to discuss our opportunities or something along those lines? So you can see this is obviously a key high value transition between the stages of the model. And these are really good places to insert your key performance indicators. So if you can put your thermometer in these little gaps here, it really shows you, you can take the temperature essentially of the marketing plan and understand why it's valuable, why it's important, why it's relevant. So it can be quite important to be able to do that. So yeah, into your KPIs, your key performance indicators, into these little transitions here. Obviously, if you're a business to consumer, then you'd have another transition there to say, yeah, right, fine, they've actually bought it. They haven't just put it in a basket and they've now bought it. I mean, this is one of the big issues that we have, and the biggest irritants that as consumers we have. We put things in the basket because we want to find out how much the postage is going to be or something, or we're just putting it there to remind ourselves that we like it.
Or
and then you
decide whether or not we actually want to buy it, which is one of the big things I do.
Yeah, and then you get endless emails to say, hey, Carl, you've got this thing in your basket. Don't forget that thing you put in your basket. As an example, a friend of mine is trying to repair his fence. He doesn't have a clue about DIY. He's not a DIY person. And he wanted to know approximately how much it's going to cost. So I went on to Wix and kind of like, yeah, it's going to cost you about 4 posts. It's going to cost you this gravel board. It's going to cost you that. It's going to do hinges, nails, bits and pieces. So I chucked it into a basket and it came out at 220 quid. I went, yeah, 220 quid. I'll let him know. I said, it's going to cost you about 220, 250 quid. It's now sitting in my basket in Wix. And of course, every day I get a message, don't forget that stuff you put in your basket. Annoying the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing there is that this is the kind of targeting and remarketing activities which are going on. This is another key terminology, is retargeting and remarketing, which is, hey, you've come to our website. Don't forget you've been to our website. Don't forget that information. You downloaded that white paper. If you're HubSpot or something like that, or if you want to download a white paper from them, you have to put in your name and your email address and stuff like that to, register so that it'll send you the download. They don't just click on it and allow you to take it and download it. That means they've got a data point. They can come back to you and say, what did you think of that? Do you need any services from that? Can we send in someone to give you some help on that? So forth. So it works in the business world as well. But this remarketing and retargeting is quite interesting. And it has a really interesting kind of half-life that goes on with this. Have I spoken to you about half-life on these things before?
We talked about it a little bit about.
Yeah. The half-life, and basically it's like when you go on a date. Crikey, I can't remember last time I went on a date, and the person then texts you, and you think, yeah, one text, fair enough. 2 texts, yeah, I'm not massively interested. 3 texts, getting into stalker territory. 4 or 5 texts, oh my God, how do I change my phone number kind of level? So this is the same with remarketing and retargeting. You have to be careful not to do it too many times because you yourself sound needy. And in the business-to-business world, you don't want to be sounding needy. Sort of, oh, you downloaded a white paper from us 3 months ago. Can we help you? Yeah, I downloaded the white paper 3 months ago. I've moved on. So we have to be careful about what's going on in that area. So what we're trying to do here is to understand, in the terms of the point of marketing, what we are trying to do in these channels here. Whether we are, in the context of your business, right, we are trying to increase the amount of traffic coming into this funnel, to increase the awareness of the wider world of who we are and what we do. Or are we trying to manage and nurture this interest? Or are we trying to generate the desires and the actions? And obviously, if you're, in your cases, you're basically focusing at these 2 levels here, because these pieces here are done by the actual partners themselves in essentially sales activities.
Yeah.
So this is all about the context. And the key thing that we're trying to do here is to look at this. And this is like a leaky bucket. Okay. And you're trying to fill a bucket and it's leaking. You've kind of got 2 options. You can either turn the tap on more and hope that the bucket will fill up quicker than it's actually leaking out the sides, or you can fill the gaps, the holes in the bucket. We won't go into the song because I'm not allowed to sing. There's a bylaw which prevents me from singing. How do we fix the bucket? Is it best to just pour more into it and accept that I'm going to have leakage, or should I be looking at patching the holes in my bucket, preventing the leakage, reducing the leakage, and finding out where the leaks are, at what point in the bucket they are, is absolutely crucial. And this is where tracking what we're doing is vital. So really, really important to be able to do this. So that's the point. And then, so this is the king. We need to focus on the message, the outcome, and the audience. So we're looking at the right person at the right time with the right message, and then the right channel. So this is absolutely crucial that we look at the channel as the last thing that we think about within our digital toolkit. Everything else comes before that. We need to get these things right. So it's the audience, the message, what we want them to do with it, where, and this outcome can be those steps between the transitions. This message, we want you to move from there to there. So we want you to sign up to our newsletter. We want you to follow us on LinkedIn. We want you to book on a webinar. We want you to come to a network event or whatever. So those are the kind of outcomes we're talking about there. And again, this how will the business cope is kind of crucial, particularly in your environment, because you've got a bunch of partners. They're already busy guys.
Yeah.
They may actually be maxed out in terms of their billable hours already. The last thing they want is 100 poorly qualified leads where they have to phone them up and have to speak to them and have to qualify them out and stuff like that. That's a waste of their time. So, you need to make sure that what you're doing in terms of your marketing up here is actually valid for the business's sake. I get a lot of people who work for Cambridge University, and other universities as well, obviously, but a lot of people from Cambridge University and from the colleges, and they want to increase the number of people applying to the college. And I said, well, why? You're already 4 times oversubscribed. For every single place at Cambridge University, there are 4 or 5 people applying for that place. So what's the point of trying to turn that 4 or 5 into 6 or 7? Is that actually helping anybody? Is that all the tutors and the admissions tutors and everything else have to go through more and more interviews and more stuff? What is the point of that? You need to make sure that the business can cope and you're doing the right things for the business. So you may say, we've got a new line of work here. We're doing some more work in this particular area. Then therefore we need to focus our marketing on building that aspect of the business, rather than a bit of the business where basically everybody's running flat out at 110% utilization already, and we can't afford to actually take any more business in that area. So again, it's this scalability as well in there. We talked about last week about the issues of scalability with Deliveroo and Just Eat and so forth. For Deliveroo and Just Eat, we can't fit any more deliveries into that area, because to do so would mean we'd have to hire more cycles and more people, and then our cost base will go up in a step change, and we won't have the revenue coming in to match the step change in increase, and it's just it makes a mess of the whole business model. So we need to talk to the business about what they want, what they need, before we actually start, because that's all about this message and outcome. You need those 2 things really, really key before you do anything else. The digital toolkit. And particularly in things like the digital journey that people are talking about. When people, the number of times I've seen assignments and someone said, the customer journey is they come to the home page and then they look through the product catalog, and then they click on that link, and then they go through to this page and they go look at individual. That's only part of the overall customer journey.
For us it's quite, we know that most people coming to the website don't even go to the homepage. They actually just go straight to the attorneys, or they go straight to, I guess it's what you said about, if you've got a link there, and they'll go straight to a blog that we've written. Yeah, so that a lot of the time they don't really go to the homepage. In fact, there's a lot of our website that they don't. So something we're looking at the moment is possibly redoing the website, and it's come up that actually there's quite a few of the pages that they don't really go to. And it's obviously you want to have them there in case anyone does go to them, but the majority of people will just go straight to the attorney because that's what they're buying, aren't they?
Absolutely. And it's interesting that people are starting to use, as you say there, people are actually starting to use web page sites almost backwards. Before you would kind of draw a website as a kind of upside down tree. So you'd have the home page, and then like an org chart in a business, you'd have a home page, and you'd have like 6 or 7 sections off of that, and then each of the 6 or 7 items would branch off into 3 or 4 bits, and then each of those 3 or 4 bits would branch off into another 3 or 4 bits. So you'd actually end up with this kind of family tree kind of thing going downwards like this. And websites are designed like that and created like that, and web designers like my colleagues at work build websites looking like that. But people don't use websites like that. People use them backwards. They're going in via social media to a story or to a blog post or to a partner profile pretty much right at the very bottom. They may then back up a couple of levels to find out other partners in that department, or other articles written by that person, or other articles written about the same kind of subject, but they're kind of almost reversing through the website rather than going down through the website. And so you need those kind of pages in there to go, right, you've come through to the list of partners. Fantastic, here are our list of partners with a little one-liner blog about them. Or you've come into the articles about copyright. Right, here's a list of other articles about copyright. So you need those kind of intermediate pages dotted around, so people can come up and then go back down again into other sites, in other parts of the site. But yeah, people use websites backwards. And social media, email, newsletters, blogs, all that stuff puts traffic in at the bottom, which then comes back up to the top. So, you may have to come back up to find the contact us, or to meet arrange a meeting or something like that. But those are the kind of things you need to do. So I'm not going to go through all of these things because most of them are not relevant to yourself, Loretta. Most of them are fairly straightforward. SMS is really, really interesting for a lot of people. It's really irritating, but it's very interesting for a lot of people, because if our phone buzzes with an SMS or a direct message, we look at it. Yeah. It's ingrained into us. It's basically a Pavlovian type response now.
Unless you live in a black hole like I do and you don't SMS messages.
Which I must admit, probably is a real pain for you, because if you things like PayPal, which says, "Hey, we're going to send you a message with your authentication code."
Nightmare.
I know.
It's a nightmare.
I'm the same. I have the same thing. You sort of, oh, we've sent you a 6-figure code. You've got 45 seconds to enter it. You're just waving your phone out of the window, and you're running across the street, desperate to try and get this code, and it's a nightmare. Sorry, I'm being a bit over dramatic here, but I know it. I feel your pain. I have the same pain myself. But it's a Pavlovian response. There's even a syndrome where it's false vibration syndrome, where you actually check your pocket because you think your phone's vibrating, even if you haven't got your phone in your pocket.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a fake phone vibration syndrome, something like that. I'll Google it and I'll send it around because it's fascinating. But we do it, and things like with geosensitivity, you're walking through the mall, shopping mall, or shopping centre, and your phone buzzes and goes, "Go large on your coffee for the next 5 minutes." Oh, I'm actually standing outside of Starbucks. What a surprise! Those kind of things happen. Wikis. Probably not relevant for you guys because you're mainly into the blog area. Wikis are great in the technical market, in the IT market, where you have essentially Geeksville, where people are talking about software development and software code and stuff like that. We have thousands of wikis on our site. It's just horrendous, and you can almost smell the stale pizza up through the wiki pages. It's ridiculous in there. RSS is actually an interesting technology. I can guarantee you won't know what RSS stands for. Really simple.
I've heard of it, but
yeah, really simple syndication. RSS started off as a system where you could actually get an RSS reader, and you'd go to a website. So you'd maybe go to Dilbert website and you'd subscribe to the RSS feed from Dilbert, and then you'd go to the Guardian and you'd subscribe to the sports pages on the Guardian through RSS, and then you would actually build essentially your daily me. So you'd actually have a digest turning up every day, and it would have the latest Dilbert cartoon. It would have the sports news from the Guardian. It would have the financial news from the Times. It would have the sidebar of shame from Daily Mail, all in one daily me. No one uses it like that anymore. That's dead. The CIM still think about it as a thing. It's not a thing, but it does have a use, and it has a use for a function called create once, publish everywhere, COPE. And what COPE does is it says, right, okay, I'm going to put a news story on my website's blog. Okay, so I'm going to get one of my partners writing a blog post about a thing. I want to then share that through social media. So that blog will have share buttons, the social media share buttons. So you can then share that through LinkedIn just on literally at the click of a button. Yeah. You can then also use services like RSS to take that information and insert it into other websites. So you may have a corporate website, which is different to your blog website, and it would say latest news from our partners. And it would have a section on that website which would have these things automatically inserted into it. It would also have a system whereby you can actually use this RSS to create your newsletter. I mean, I don't know how you do your newsletter at the moment, but most organizations are basically taking the information and actually having to manually retype it into MailChimp or manually retype it into
Yeah, we use links. So we take, like, you've got we send out a monthly bulletin. We will take the link of the blog from the website, and then we'll do like a little a title, have a picture, and do a little little subtext with it as well. So yeah, that's how we do it, and we build it that way through Monitor.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a link here. And this is our Create Once, Publish Everywhere website. And what you can do on this website is you can subscribe to the newsletter. And once a week, Wednesday at 1 p.m, you will get a weekly digest of all of the latest news stories from the research and education networking environment community. And tragically, there are quite a lot of them. So I'm not going to, but if you subscribe to it, you get 15, 16 mini digest of the stories turning up as a one email in your inbox. It takes us literally 30 seconds a week to create that because we use this RSS technology to syndicate it out into MailChimp automatically. So we create it once in the website, and then we publish it through social media, through other websites in our portfolio, through the newsletter, all automatically. So we don't have to do anything else. And it's a really great way of essentially syndicating content across your real estate of websites and other channels and other systems and stuff like that. So it can be really quite interesting. Take a look at it if you
I will do.
If you want to subscribe to it and unsubscribe after a week. I'm not going to expect you to be on there for a long time because it's not exactly that exciting for anybody who's not involved in research and education networking. But, so, have a look. Could be quite fun. So that is the overall toolkit. Widgets and gaming are things that the CIM insist on putting in there. The vast majority of companies don't have any links to that at all. This is all about pop-up adverts. This is all about the, every time you finish a level in the game, you have to watch a bloody advert and stuff like this. It's just interstitial advertising, and they just wanted to put it in there to make themselves look funky. I hope no one from the CIM ever listens to this video because I'll be in trouble. Anyway, so in terms of content, there's three kinds of content really that people talk about, and they come into owned, paid, and earned. Now, for you guys, you've got a lot of stuff going on in the owned, because you control your website and you control your blogs and you control all that stuff. But you do get a lot of this paid stuff. And I mean, people think about, oh, paid being pay-per-click and PPM, which is pay per thousand, pay per million, which is the views stuff. This is the stuff which funds the Daily Mail.
Mm-hmm.
But advertorial can be immensely valuable in your environment, in the business-to-business world, because people want to absorb information. People want to learn. People, particularly if you're looking at some things which are in the kind of awareness raising area, because this is where you're on third-party sites and you're saying to Trademark Weekly or product management. I'm actually part of a group, product marketing management. So we market product. We simply put products into market. Now, for people who are product marketers, things like IPR are immensely interesting because we have to consider it. We have to think about it. It's one of the kind of tick boxes in our gate reviews. Have we registered the trademark? Have we made sure that this is actually legal and honest and decent for us to sell? You know, major issue. Advertorials in those kind of associated kind of publications and websites and so forth can be amazingly valuable because people who don't know you will read that article somewhere else. Where they do know, find it, and through that find you. So it can be quite valuable kind of stuff. And you know, advertorial stuff, a lot of business to business. We can work with the egos of our clients. We do it a lot for our clients. One of our big clients is CERN, and the guys at CERN have obviously got egos the size of a Large Hadron Collider, and so we can play on those by saying to them, oh, you know that technology we installed for you, which allows you to do X and Y and Z and everything else. I'm sure there'll be loads of people around the world like really interested in finding out about what you've done there. Would you mind doing a 5-minute video for us? So we do the Vox Pop type video, and they're standing in front of a Large Hadron Collider going, yes, we were really clever and we were really smart and we took this technology from Giant and we did some amazing things with it, and aren't we clever people? Because they're basically massaging their own egos. It can be really, really valuable for us because then in the business world where me second is kind of really important. People don't want to be the first. They don't want to be at the leading edge. They want someone else to have the pain first. All right, so they've done that. That's interesting. Maybe we could do something similar. It gets us past that hump of the me second need. So it can be really valuable. And of course, you know, because they're massaging their egos, they don't charge us for any of that. So it's actually really cost effective. It's amazing how many people will be willing to spend 5 minutes being videoed just to massage their ego through a couple of hundred YouTube videos. It's quite staggering what they will do for that. And then you've got the earned stuff, which is the social media stuff. Very, very important in the business to consumer world. But for you guys, you know, recognition, word of mouth, this viral activity, networking events, someone's complaining to somebody else, and you're paying the backside for this. Oh, I know someone who can help you with that. So this is really interesting in that kind of networking environment. But in the business to consumer world, it's things like hashtags on social media and stuff like this, and things like that. So not necessarily in the business to business world, but can be quite invaluable in the business to consumer world. Talking about social media, we won't talk about too much about this because you know, it's most people know a little bit about social media these days. The really interesting thing about it is this tribal nature of social media. Throughout most of human history, we have lived in tribes of around about up to 150 to 200 people. Ever since we came out onto the savannah and started actually hunting and gathering and stuff like this, we have been in tribes of 150 to 200 people. That's the kind of number we like in a tribe. Okay. Beyond that, we actually start to feel uncomfortable, you know, because we like self-similar, we like peers, we like people who are like us. who share the same views, the same values, and so on and so forth. And social media actually works in this tribe environment. You may think, oh, well, there's literally billions of people on Facebook. Well, yeah, there are. But if you look at your tribe on Facebook, it's a couple of hundred people plus some companies and stuff like that. But it's usually a couple of hundred people big. It's a fairly clear number that people have. Yeah, they may follow thousands of people on Twitter, but in terms of people you converse with, it's maybe 50, maybe 100 people you converse with. So we work in these tribes. And the thing that we have with this is that because they are self-similar to us, they believe the same things as us, they feel the same things, they have the same views on Brexit, they have the same views on climate change, they have the same views on politics and everything else, because that's who we are, that's what we like. We like people who are like us. If they say, this is a great product, or this is a great service, or I tried that and it was wonderful, I tried Mindful Chef and it was fantastic, I've never felt better and stuff like this, because they're part of our peers, because they're part of our tribe, we value that recommendation much, much more than we look at other stuff, than just generic corporate marketing, you know. So it can be really, really valuable. If you think about it in your own life, it is very like that. And in the business world, the same. You know, this is why the videos of people on YouTube are so important, because people recognize themselves in the person they're watching on the video and go, yeah, I'm like that. I'm a captain of industry in my particular field. And if they made a good thing and doing this, then I'll make a good thing doing the same. And because I'm like them, even if they're nothing at all like them, but they'll feel that they're like them. So this is the kind of interesting thing. So when you're talking about social media, it's not the billions, it's not the millions, it is the hundreds, which are absolutely crucial. Yeah, there are three kinds of music of social media. This is the actual outbound corporate stuff that we all do with this cope, create once, publish everywhere, where you push messages out and so forth. Of course, the interesting thing with this active marketing is that it used to involve mainly people who were already following you. So it was actually in the interest phase of the ADA model, because unless they were aware of you when they started to follow you, you couldn't message to them because they weren't following you. So, you know, you were just talking, you were preaching to the choir. Now, with a lot more of the targeting within this database targeting, you can do a lot more active marketing to say, I am interested in people of a certain income level, certain age, in a certain area, working in these fields of industry. And then LinkedIn will say, yeah, I've got 250 people just like that. And you can then market to those 250 people. So, and that's where LinkedIn comes in, because you basically, by putting your CV on LinkedIn, let's be honest, that's what most of us do on LinkedIn, you're telling LinkedIn who you are, who you're working for, what sector you're in, what level of management you are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They can then infer a lot of other information from you by the people you're following and your peers and your stuff like that. And then they can say, yeah, sure, Loretta, you want to market to product marketers in the IT industry in the UK. Great, we know 500 product marketers in the IT industry in the UK, and I happen to be one of them. I then get your adverts. Yeah. So you can actually do that push marketing very, very tightly, very, very personalized. We talked about personalization last week. That's what you can do. Responsive marketing is where basically people go, oh, that Eduroam service that Carl produces is rubbish. And they mention Eduroam on Twitter. I then track those and they go, oh, really sorry about that. You need to speak to your IT department in your university and they'll sort it for you. Or someone goes on Twitter and says, anyone got a spare password to get onto Eduroam because I've forgotten mine? And then I have to put a message out to say, don't share your passwords because blah, 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 blah. So I'm doing that responsive marketing activity there. It's a basically customer servicey type thing. And, you know, with Yodel, I pity the guys who are doing the responsive marketing for Yodel on social media, because basically every single thing they have to do is, where's my parcel? Or your bloody idiot driver dropped it over my fence, it's broken, how do I complain? That must be a thankless job. I mean, can you
I had a run-in with, well, I say run-in, I had a problem with Hermes, and they were awful, and it's very much down to your area. We moved house,
Yeah.
and our local deliverer around here is fantastic. In fact, his wife uses social media if they don't put the right address on, and will like message the local villager group and be like, oh, can you tell me, because they often don't put, companies often don't put the full address.
Yeah.
So they put the person's name, they'll put like the main road, but they won't put like the house or anything or the number. You know who to deliver it to, and yeah, it does. But some I find some companies are pretty good with their sort of responses.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the poor guys at Yodel just suffer continuously. People like Innocent Drinks, when they did the Conquer Milk a couple of years ago, and you know, said, oh, we're launching a new thing, Conquer Milk, and it was April Fool's Day, and then everyone went, you can't say that, it's dangerous. Oh, it was a joke, guys, it was April Fools. And they had to do a whole bunch of stuff, but they were good about that kind of stuff. So there's interesting things going on in there. And the other really interesting thing is this analytical reporting. And we talked about this before, so I won't go into it again. This analytical reporting, like things with the 2010 elections and stuff like this, being able to track that information and you know, looking at your competitors and what you're. So I mean, Hermes can look at the Yodel system and go, God, they're awful, or whatever. How can we do something to make ourselves better than that? And you get things like Aldi and Marks and Spencer's having arguments in this responsive marketing area, but they can look at this analytical reporting, and you know, Marks and Spencer's could actually look at this and go, actually, guys, we're looking pretty bad on social media for attacking a chocolate caterpillar cake. Seriously, is this a hill we're going to die on? You know, using the analytical reporting, they can actually identify whether that was a hill they wanted to die on.
Yeah.
I decided to.
It was funny though.
It was funny, yeah, absolutely. And now they got the right things. One of the big problems we have is that a lot of social media is is too quick. You know, you can have a great idea and you can, you know, over coffee, and you can blast it out in 30 seconds later. And you don't have the approvals processes that you get with press releases and everything else. And so you need, and also you may have different staff doing it. If you've got the responsive training where you've got customer services people on there, they aren't trained in marketing. They don't necessarily know all the marketing messages and stuff like this. And so you need training, you need tools, and you need trust in those people. And if you don't trust them, then you shouldn't give them access to this stuff. And these are some of the big things. Yeah, the American Rifle NRA people, lovely people. They obviously had used Hootsuite to pre-program a bunch of adverts through social media. It happened to be the day after a major school shooting in America. Now, if you're Cadbury's and you're advertising Crunchies, you can go, thank Crunchy, it's Friday, which used to be a TV advert. You're probably too young for that one, but it used to be a thing. Thank Crunchy, it's Friday was their slogan. Cadbury's could do that because the number of times there's a mass murder involving Crunchies is pretty small. So yeah, that's the thing there. This person was actually had obviously TweetDeck or something like that running, and so they had two accounts running on their machine, and they accidentally went into the wrong one. This is a hashtag hijacking. So there's big riots in Cairo, and this fashion company decided this was going to be a good idea. They got a lot of blowback from that one. And Susan Boyle, unfortunately, they forgot to put the capital letters in her hashtag. That should be Susan Album Party. But yeah, so we need training, we need the right tools, and they need to be trusted. So, you know. So in summary, when you're looking at all of these different channels in the toolbox, find the ones which fit into the various elements of that that funnel, be that race, be that ADA. Some things are building traffic in. Some things are these sub goals like newsletters and social media and YouTube and stuff like that. And some are the actual place you want people to go to. So you've got different things happening at different times, and you need to identify how all of these link together and these mesh together, and some feed others, and some are places to go, and some places are kind of side loops and these sub goals and stuff like this. And you also really need to understand why you're doing this stuff, and how it's all fitting together. And so you need to understand why. What is the point of it? What am I trying to get out of this? And this comes to the whole kind of business strategy thing of your business. What is it that I am doing which will help support the growth of the business? If you don't know that, then there is literally no point in you doing digital marketing.
Yeah.
And look at that, it's 8 o'clock, my goodness.
Yes.
Sorry, it's been just the two of us. And I'm sorry that a lot of the audio, the recording and stuff like that was for the benefit of non-insistent people, but hopefully it's been useful, and hopefully it's been interesting for you.
No, it's good
Maybe,
to get information on everything, isn't it? Otherwise, it doesn't build a full picture.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff which is not necessarily directly relevant, but it might kind of have that kind of cross-fertilization, might sort of spark an idea in your head to say, oh, we could do something along those lines. We could, use some kind of factor. I mean, I know a lot of legal firms and financial firms and stuff like this use budget day, and they kind of use budget day as a kind of a hook to put a lot of stuff into. You may not necessarily be like that, but there's all sorts of things. There's all sorts of news stories and stuff like that, and how can I utilize those in a kind of business to consumer way, but to kind of bring relevance and to raise awareness of ourselves to other people, So yeah, could be useful in that respect. Okay, good. Well, it's been lovely, Loretta. I shall see you next week. Hopefully there'll be more people with us. We've had a fair few people pulling out this time, but hopefully we'll have more people next time. I'll poke people more frequently and more often to get them to turn up, and otherwise you'll get a customer service. So absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, Loretta, take care. I shall speak to you next week. Okay.
Yeah. See you next week. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.